Okay, so today I decided to finally come up to this place. It's right up the road from me. I see it all the time when I pass by in the morning on my way home from work. And it's got some historical value to it. It's Mollie's Root Beer. It's located on Route 72 North, I guess it's Mount Gretna. And I had seen this a few times and wondered what was going on with it. And I was kind of scared to go over here because it looked like it was so abandoned and overgrown. But there's no trespassing signs, so I thought I'd just take a look and see what's going on around here and if there's anything interesting to be seen. Good morning, everybody. I'm just waking up here. It's what is it? It's almost 2 in the afternoon. But I wanted to finish up this video and get it out to you. And every time I was trying to do it yesterday, my brain would just completely shut down and I couldn't remember what I was saying. I want to do the information in between the clips on the video coming up. This is about the place down the road, Mollie's Root Beer, that I visited 2 days ago. And I found out some interesting information to add to the video, so I wanted to share it all with you. Okay, so what I found out by digging around online is that this place was opened in 1925 by a father and son residents of Mannheim, PA, and that would be Maurice and Austin Meiskey. And I'm not sure that I'm pronouncing that right, so forgive me. It's Meisky. It closed in the early 1990s. Some people have said 94, some said 95, some even said 97. But they sold all kinds of stuff there. Barbecue, pork barbecue, root beer floats, which was homemade. They didn't ship it in, they did it themselves. They had fried hot dogs, from what I understand, and French fries. And of course they sold ice cream as well. So Maurice died in 1958, and his son Austin, I guess, continued to run the business. His wife's name was Catherine. And Austin died in 1997. So the consensus is that it was either closed a few years before he passed away or right after he passed away. However, Catherine, I believe, is the person who still lives on the property next to the actual place. There is another grandson. His name was Warren Meisky, and he was still running the spring water business on the side there for a while, I think up until he got too old or something happened there. I'm not real sure when the spring water was shut down. One thing I thought was pretty interesting here was this little pavilion or place where they used to allow you to get spring water, and as you can see, it was only 25 cents a gallon. So that's pretty cool, huh? I mean, all of this is shut down now. You can no longer get spring water, as far as I know. But isn't that kind of cool? The dates on these things are pretty old. Let's see, the last one was in date collected 2015, so not in recent years. That's what, 10 years ago now? All right, let's head over here, see if we can get through without causing too much commotion. It's quite grown up here, and there's a lot of traffic in the background. You can kind of get in here and see a little bit of what's inside. So you can see there's still some tables and benches set up in there. This was a bar here, apparently. I imagine that they displayed various things here for sale. And we can also see that there's some signs still up from what kind of things they had to offer. You gotta be careful here. It is getting to be snake season. Yep, all of this stuff is still here. Closed till spring. See, there's still a sign here of the different kinds of ice cream and stuff that they offered. And then that's all, the windows are all closed off there. So interesting find. I'm gonna try to put some information on here about the place when I get home. I got a couple other places to visit today, but I just wanted to get a gander at this place because it just looks so cool, you know. Just trying to imagine, you know, back in its heyday. Awesome. So in that little display case out front that I showed you, another YouTube channel that had run a short video that had visited there, he was didn't know what was in there, and I was curious about that too. And from what I can find out, it looks like they had all kinds of little knickknackies in there and things like little toys, kids' toys that they could sell. Some people mentioned Matchbox cars, little glass animal figurines, t-shirts, and all kinds of little stuff that would be fun for kids to look at and to purchase, you know, when they had a little extra money from, I don't know, their allowance or something. I saw it mentioned that they also used to sell quart containers full of root beer in them that were shaped like ice cream cones. So this probably won't be a very long video because it's just a little place off to the side of the road and no hiking required. It does look to be quite overgrown. Can't really see too much. There's a building off to the right here. I'm assuming this might be private property. I don't see anyone around to ask though. So we just kind of walk back here a little bit and see what's going on. I did read a little bit of the history online. I know this place closed and the family that owned it says that there's no place or no intentions to reopen the place as it is or even to make it into something different. But you can see everything's boarded up. But this was apparently the happening place at one time. There was you know, a very busy root beer and ice cream float bar. There looks to be like there's a property back here. Let's see if anyone's around. I don't see any cars. So I was looking to try to find an aerial map of the location and then for the 90s or probably prior to the 1970s, where I had seen that the place had been remodeled in 1970 sometime. Prior to that, it was still just a roadside stand. So it was sometime after the 70s, I believe, they expanded and turned it into a sit-down restaurant and inn. I wanted to find the location of the cottages that were said to be there that they had rented out. The one post said that Route 72, which runs in front of Mollie's, was put in sometime in the 70s, I think, and it took away some of their parking, and they tore down the cottages on the other side of the road. And what I'm curious about as to whether the two buildings that are there that are not residences are part of those cottages that they had for rent there. But unfortunately, I haven't been able to find a map that includes that area. A lot of people think that this is in Mount Gretna, and it is sort of close to Mount Gretna, but technically the address is still Mannheim. So this is probably the most valuable piece of information I found. It was on Mannheim Historical Society's post, and it was written in by Denise Meisky Adams. She claims to be the great-granddaughter of the owners of the property. I'm going to read this right off the screen while I'm on here. Denise Meisky Adams writes, Mollie's is short for Mollie's Inn. The property was purchased by the Meisky family in 1925. They first opened it as a roadside stand, then expanded into a sit-down restaurant and inn. There were cottages that people could rent overnight or longer. Route 72 used to run through the now parking lot. When they expanded 72, they moved it and straightened out the road. Cottages were torn down on the other side of the road. Mollie's gained a parking lot from the moving of the road as they lost land. There was a gunning club, a public pool, a park, a dance floor. The open pavilion housed the dance floor and stage where many bands would come to play. Just like things that come and go at Hershey, so did things at Mollie's. Times change. Mount Gretna also has a history of days gone by too. Mollie's was remodeled around the 1970s to what most people recall. They were known for homemade root beer, ice cream, burgers, barbecues, and fries, always trying to keep things affordable for their customers. And she goes on to explain why the place is not being renovated or reopened at this time, and, ask that people please respect her family's wishes. And I concur with that. I think that if it was my home and I was living on that, that would be my right and prerogative to decide to reopen, decide to renovate, or just let it there as it is. And I think that we should all, appreciate and respect that. There was a lot of speculation by people in threads, online discussion threads, that the buildings were sinking there and that there was septic and sewer problems, water problems. Denise later in the thread said that there is septic and water there, so that wasn't true. I saw a few mentions of other places that I've been trying to locate some information on. One of them is Gracie's Restaurant that used to be up the street. Couldn't really find any information on that. There's one mentioned the Little Corner of Germany, which is still a cafe, but it looks like it's on Doe Run Road. Hulls Hill was a neighborhood around right here, and I can't find a lot about that. And then there's somebody mentioned Hughes Water Table, so I don't know if they misspelled that or if that's something I just haven't been able to locate. So if anybody out there knows anything about any of those things, please, comment in the message thread. I think this is a property back here that belongs to the owners of the property, but I was hoping to see a car or somebody at home that I could talk to, maybe get some information or history from them. And it definitely looks like somebody still lives here, but I don't see anyone at home. So there's a building off to the right here. It looks like they may have had something in it at one time. Going around to the side here, lots of pallets and stacked wood. So a lot of people mentioned in the same thread about seeing a root beer barrel. That would have been the same root beer barrel that is now located at the Cornwall Rails to Trail trailhead. Apparently there were more than one barrel, but none of them were part of Mollie's. That was a separate business that was located right up the road and was in fact competition to Mollie's. They would have been located right at the beginning of what is now Spring Hill Road. And they sold imported, like bottled root beer, not homemade root beer like Mollie's did, but they were some kind of a competition. Now those barrels were given to someone. I guess one of them maybe was this attorney, George Christensen, because 15 years ago in 2010, he donated one of the barrels to the Lebanon Valley Rail Trails. The Boy Scouts and one of the original builders, Bill Schwartz, refurbished and rebuilt that and put it up at the trailhead. There was mention of more than one barrel though, so not sure what happened to the other ones. Just wanted to make sure that it was out there, that that was not part of Mollie's. But kind of ironic that two root beer places would have been in such close vicinity, huh? Two other things that I found out. Apparently there used to be fish ponds, like a little goldfish pond out in back of the property. I didn't see any evidence of that when I was there, but I wasn't looking for it. And apparently out front there's some boulders that have some blast drill holes in them, and I also didn't look for that. So, you know, if you visit there, maybe you could look for that. One thing I do want to say also is if you do decide to visit this place, right now there are not any no trespassing signs. That being said, that doesn't mean you can go in there and traipse all over everything, you know, and be disrespectful. I didn't know that the owner lived on the property when I pulled up in there, but when I saw the residence, I thought, oh, I can go, you know, ask some questions. Fortunately, no one was home, because after reading the comments and stuff, it sounds like a lot of people have approached the family or this resident over the years and were, you know, not given an answer that they wanted to hear about the place. And it does seem like, you know, it had gotten to the point where most people were just become irritating, you know, to have to answer that question all the time and be badgered like that, especially, you know, if you're an elderly person living on a property and you constantly have people knocking on your door wanting information and trying to get you to sell your residence. So, you know, please, just, you know, keep it quick, and don't touch anything. You know, you look in the windows. A lot of people do look in the windows, but be very careful. I'm sure they don't want any problems with people, you know, getting hurt on the property or anything. But one thing, please don't go next door and knock on the door of the residences. That would be my suggestion. Okay, just going to wrap this up. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you like my content, please like, comment, subscribe, or share. Everybody have a good week. Namaste.